All right. Good evening, good day. Not sure what time will you view this. When my voice today, it's way better. Just want to confirm that it's recording first before I can start with the session. Okay, that's fine. All right, so the last time when we started with unit testing, the method that I initially found was the most difficult one. We didn't even do much on the day. I think we spent most time installing the packages and also did one class and one method. So I completely went back to try to find a better way to do unit testing on that, and I did. So I'm not going to show you how to do for all those three roles. So you will do unit testing for an independent contractor because HR, not HR for part two, we don't have HR, program coordinator and academic manager, they basically do the same thing. So there's not much there except for them to approve. So you will do unit testing for an IC. Remember, an IC or independent contractor is supposed to do, I think it's 3 or 4 things. One is to capture the hours that they worked, and two, to capture the rate. And then with these two values, they should be able to get a total amount that they will be paid. And then they should have an additional notes section where they can add notes to the program coordinator. And then lastly, to attach a document. So it means that the unit test that I will be doing will be showing case the calculation of the final amount that should be paid, that is based on the hourly rate and the hours worked, and also the rate. And also to add information, which is notes, and then to upload a documentation. Please note that unit test, you're just simulating how an application will work, but you're drawing that or using your actual application to see if it will handle that particular information. So what I did here is that I have an application. You can see it's called web application. So this only does what an independent contractor do only. There is no program coordinator or academic manager, but it's the process of submitting a claim. And I'm also using a database here, which is the SQLite. So this is what I'll be doing to demonstrate to you guys how to do unit testing with ease and quickly. So please, again, you also need the concept or understanding on how to link to a project, which is what I showed you guys when we were dealing with class libraries. So what I'll be using for this lesson is I'll be using XUnit test, but you can choose whichever one you're comfortable with. You're not limited to use what I use. I found that this is the most simplest one to do. So, okay, let's just do some quick theory. What is unit testing? So unit testing, in a nutshell, it means checking all smart parts or features or function components of your entire application, such as in this case could be methods, calculation, or database saves, anything that your application do in order to make sure that they work correctly before you can deploy your application. So you do this automatically. We just write some function, we just write some implementation, and then we run it, we see if it works. So the reason that I'm using XUnit, as I said, it's the simplest framework for writing and running tests in the .NET. There's a couple of them I did. I think I showed you guys on the day that we started. So why would we need to use XUnit test? Number one is that or not unit test, not XUnit test, but unit test. We want to do this, first of all, to ensure that there are no bugs in our application. And if there are any errors, we can be able to identify them before the application goes to end users, so that whenever we need to change code, we can quickly change that to see if the old features still work, and also to make our application more reliable or maintainable. So there are a few things that we need to know here with XUnit. Number one is the keyword that is called fact. So you'll see me using it a lot here for each and every method that I'll be creating. So this one is needed by the compiler of Visual Studio to run that particular component or feature block as a method. Run it. It knows that I'm going to run this method. We normally put the fact under on top of the method. So it will know that that is, I'm supposed to run that particular method as a test. So it knows itself that I'm not expecting any input from a user, even though the implementation might need an input itself. So it knows by you not putting the fact, by you putting the fact, it knows that it should work without an input that comes from a user. And then there will be asset dot equal. So your asset is used to check the result, right? And then, so both of them, we use them together, asset dot equal, you see it in a moment. It means that check feature A and B if they're the same, because we will be comparing two endpoints. Remember, we're not expecting an input from a user, but somehow we need to simulate an input. And for, let's take this example. I enter rate as like 10. And then we say the hours that you work, it's 2. So I'm putting those two input 10 and 2. And then I'll do a calculation and say 10 multiplied by 2, that will give me an answer. So I'll say take 10 times 2, which will be feature A, and then I'll take the answer of that, which is 20, and match them together and say, okay, will these two give me the same answer? If not, give me an error. And if we get an error, it means that something is not done right in our application. We need to go and fix it. And it's not as that simple that you can cheat it, that you do it here, and then that's it. Remember that this, it must go into your application, like your original application. So you must go and draw from the method that you have in this application here, which is web application, in order for it to test it. So let's start. So the first thing is that note the name of your application. There at the top, you have solution. You're going to right click that one. You click add. And then you want to add a new project. And then there at the top, you can type test. Sometimes when you do it this like this, it just runs away. So you click back. And I mentioned there's a couple of tests that you can do. You can see there's M test, there's N unit, unit test, then there is XUnit. I'll be using XUnit because it's the simplest one. Then I'll just click next. Then let's give this one, say IC clean test. And then I'll just click next. Then please make sure, most of us I know using .NET 9, please remain with it. It needs to match with your application. Click create. Okay, here's the fact that I was telling you about. So what happens is that it will create a class for you. What we don't want, it's this name, it's a default name. We don't want that. So you're going to right click this name of the class. You say rename, and then you're going to give this class a name. So it's up to you what you want to call it. So let's call this plain text. Then you press enter once. And then there will be a pop-up there. Please click yes so that it can go and replace wherever there is unit test 1. Then once you're done, you need to go to tools to install one package. Unlike the last time, for those who were in class, where we install 100 of packages, now we just only need one. Okay, so you go to browse and then you type X unit. Then hit send. Okay, you'll take this one, there the first, you'll see it by this blue icon. Then you click it once. And then please don't tick it for your project. You're going to tick it for your unit test. The version there, it doesn't matter. This is the stable one and it's the latest version. Don't be alarmed when you see 2.9. And then you click next for me. Click apply. That's the only unit test that you need. You can see with the green tick there, everything is installed. You just close it. So what you need to do is to import it for this project. So you can just say using X unit. And then one thing is to ensure that we are able to see the model class of our initial application, because we will be using some properties that are coming from that. So I'll just say, before we do that, maybe let me just do it so that you will see, for those who might forget. I want to type the name of my project, which is web application 15, and then I close. So we'll need the models. So models, and then we close. So you'll see that we're getting an error. And the reason that we're getting an error is because these two projects, they don't know each other. So what we're going to do, not solution, the name of your unit test, right click it. You go to add project reference. And then you will tick the box there of your application. And then you click OK. You're going to give it a couple of seconds there to ensure that these applications, they are able to communicate with one another, or alternatively, you can just check down there. It should tell you if it's done. You can see now the error is gone, meaning that I have a relationship between these two. All right. So now, since I want to be able to calculate the total pay for a claim, so if I call out my model class here, you will see that in order for me to get the hours there to the total, I need hours and I also need a rate. So we can simplify this by getting the formula to, that will be hours multiplied by the rate. That will give me the total. So what I can do is that instead of going and editing on my test, since I already have access to this model class, I can define this as a property. So I'm going to keep the business logic in one place for easier to test, which is the model class, because that's what we will be using a lot. So we want to ensure that we create a property that will be able to return the product of hours multiplied by the rate, or multiplication of hours. You multiply hours and rate so you can get a total. So we're going to use the properties that we normally use, and then that will be a formula that will give us the rate. So let's do that. I'll say public decimal. I'm using decimal because the hours are defined as decimal. Then I think we can call this calculate total amount. So you define it as a method. And then inside there, you're going to do a return statement. So you take hours, which is there, say hours, product, rate. And this will give us the correct amount also. For instance, if our rate our hours I work 10, so that will be 10 multiplied by the hours I work 2, and then this should give me 20, which will be 20 rand. So that is the idea. So you save that for me, then you will go back to your test. So you'll see why we did that. So first, let's do a method here, or a test method that will allow us to get the total of what I just showed you as an example. So let's change this name there. And then we can say, call this, say calculated total amount. That's fine. So remember that the fact tells X unit to treat this method as a test, as it does not take an input, it just runs. So what we are going to do now is that with this step, firstly, we are going to do what we call arrange. So we start with the arrange phase, and that does simple things. It just sets up the object and values that we need in order to run our test. Why do we need that? We need that because we must create a claim with values that are known. Remember, we're not getting anything from the user. So at the end of the day, we should be able to predict the answer that we should get when someone goes and enters those hours. So that is what we do. So first, let me just state, let's say arrange phase. So the arrange phase, you can see in IntelliSense that it's telling me that we're going to set up an object and the values that we need. So let me go and create an object here. We'll call this claim, and then we'll say new claim. You realize that the claim there that is telling me it is in capital C. And where do you get it? It is your model class. All right, so I'm going to close this there. So now we have an object that we use. So now let's go and set up the hours property to any value that we want. So we are going to say var claim equals to, and then we are going to, we need to tap into the property that is inside there. We don't have to. You can see as soon as I put dot, it goes to the claim model. So I need hours. So let's say hours we have worked 20. All right. So this will set hours to 20. So that means that this IC has worked for 20 hours. So that is what it basically says. So you notice that we are getting an error there. So it's saying that a local variable name claims, because I declared it there again. So we shouldn't declare it because we already have it. That's an oversight. And then the rate, we're doing the same thing. So just do, let's say 670. So this is the amount that an IC will be paid per hour. All right. So now we are going to do what we call act phase. So act, it's the way it does what it says, act phase. It's just act. It's just act or simulate the real implementation, which will be the back end. So these will call the method that we want, which is in our initial application, so that it can calculate the method, these hours. So we are going to call this, let's call this get result equals to, then we're going to type to claim dot. You notice that the moment I say dot, I'm getting a method, the calculate total amount. That is why we did this, because it's easy to do it like that. If you didn't have this, you're going to do it inside of your controllers, which was going to take you time. So now we're going to do the asset phase. Remember the asset phase, it checks the answer if it produces what we get. So what we need to do now is grab our calculator. I don't know why did I use a bigger number. So we can just say 20 multiplied by 670. So I know that the answer will be 13,400. We need to know that answer because we need to check if you multiply this into, will it give you the answer that you want? So you go with asset dot equal, and then you close. And then here the first value, it's the correct, it takes two values. The first value is the correct amount that you anticipate, which is 13,400. So you just have 13,400. And then you put a comma and say this must match with this that the calculation will give. Remember that this multiply this plus this. All right. So now, here's how we can read what we just did now. We are saying make sure that the result is 13,400. If not, just stop and show me an error. If the test passes, then X unit will show a green sign, which I'm about to do now. And then if it fails, you'll see a red dot with accompanied errors. So I'm going to run this test. Last time we went to properties and we changed all of these things. So just give me a second, guys. It's too much noise here. I'll be back. All right, apologize for that. So I was saying that the last time to run multiple projects, we went to the property and we change it. Sometimes you can click a drop down there and you do that. And I know you'll be tempted to go there. It works sometimes, but the easiest way to do that is you're going to right click the test. Right click your test, and then you can see this there, or Ctrl+Alt+T for those who are on Windows. You just click run. So you're going to do this one by one. We are not done because we have two more features that needs to be tested. So you're going to do it one by one. And when you do it, please give it some time because it takes time to run this. You can see that you want this guy to tell you if it has passed. What you don't want is this area. This and this, they mean nothing. So you need these two. So you can see that I clicked run, but nothing is happening. This is not changing. This is not changing. If you notice there, it's still running. So that is why I'm saying give it some time. Don't be in a rush until it completes. Now it's done. If you collapse there, it will tell you that the test is passed. So what I want you guys to do, it should make my life easier. You'll take a screenshot of the whole screen. Take a screenshot, and then you'll submit this in a document as part of your submission so that I know that your test is passed. So we know that the first phase has worked. So we know that the implementation or the calculation of ours will work. So now we're done with that one. All right. So now let's move to the second one. Okay, the other way of running this, as I said, that you go to test, and then you can go to Test Explorer. Then it will give you the same thing that we did. It's just the simplest way that I showed you. All right, so now let's go to the second part, which is a little bit tricky, but not that much, which is the add notes. So it's not that difficult, but I'm just gonna keep it simple, which is what I prefer from you guys. So you leave this, you can combine all of this into one method. It's allowed. I'm just going to separate this so that you can see. I'll go and create another method. And remember that you always start with the fact, and then let's create a method, public void. And then let's call these nodes simulation. Oh, let's give it a name that they want. Additional nodes simulation. Okay. So the additional node simulation is that an IC will start a node and then there will be some submitted. This will be easy. I just want to see if the application will be able to handle the nodes. We're going to do the same thing. Remember the process arrange, where you're creating an object, act, where you sort of acting to get an answer, and then you're comparing what you have, the answer that you have, it will give you the same answer as what is required. So I'm initially going to make this fail so that you guys can see how it will be done. So this will be the same thing, var claim. I'm creating an object now. I'm not going to do the same thing that I've done. Claim, I'm going to add notes. The moment I put dot there, it takes me inside of my claim where I can be able to type my notes, because that is a string. If you open there, you see that your notes, it is string. So I'll just say this is a test for the claim notes, something like that. Okay, and then I'll go to the egg part. That will be var notes and then equals to claim.notes. So I'm just taking, sort of like I'm doing a calculation. I'm taking the notes and I'm putting it inside of the model because that is where it's supposed to be stored. So just say notes. Looking for notes. There you go. So I'm just storing this particular string inside there. Then lastly, we do the asset. So I'm just gonna do it like this. Didn't write that, so just check this. Additional notes submitted. So I'm just gonna leave it like this. And then I'll run this, right click, run. Then we're going to give it a second, a couple till you can see now we have two tests now. Now we can see that one is failed. So you'll get it like this. What you need to do is to collapse, collapse, collapse. And then you can see that you can double click it. Then the moment you double click it, now it tells you why it fails. So you read from there the top, particularly here on the method. It says the asset dot, you have a failure there. And what is causing that failure? It's because your string, it's different. It's saying I'm expecting additional note submitted. But what I'm getting is this is a test node for the actual claim, meaning that this act that you have does not match with the actual value that you have. So all you need to do is to make sure that these two and these two are equal. So I can either take this and then I'll paste this so that now they look the same. And then I'll run the test again. Now we have two tests. So you take another screenshot for this, or you can wait until you get to the end and then you're done. So the last thing that an IC is supposed to do is to attach a document. So here, do not go and attach an actual document. What you need to do is to simulate that a user can upload a document and it will go to where it's supposed to be stored. So that's what you need to do. What we need to do is to check, right, that when you set a particular file that is uploaded, it goes to the correct folder or path so that you can get it exactly as it is when you want to use it. So let me go and create a method for that. We'll start with fact, and then cancel that. We say public void, and then we can say file properties. Say is stored correctly. That's all you need to do. Of course, you can simulate, but this will be the easiest one to do for you guys. So you leave it like that. Again, the same thing. You do the arrange phase. That's it. So the next one now is to set the file name to whatever name that you want. Let's say now you're uploading a file. So I'm just going to say claim, and I'll go to file name. Then maybe the file will name it. It's a simulation. It's not a real file. So the name will be invoice.pdf, right? So now say, okay, this is the file that you want to upload. I need to store it in a folder. So I'm going to set a path where it's going to be stored. So just say claim dot file path. Remember, I'm getting this from my model class. And then now we're simulating the storage, which is a string. / you're inside the directory. And then if you click www.root, there is a folder there that is called upload. So you gotta make sure that it's there. So call this uploads. And then now I'm getting the actual file, which is invoice.pdf, which is this one. So now this simulates the file that is stored into this directory or folder. So now I'm going to do my asset. That will be asset.equal. Okay. I'll take it like that. Let me just explain what is happening. Remember, it takes too far. So the stored, which is this file, now it's stored inside of this folder. And the read values, where we're reading it from, we're getting that from a directory, must be set so that we can be able to get this. But this does not end alone. You have a file name, which is fine. And we're saying that the name of this file, it comes from this name. It has a name or file name, but we also need to do the directory where it is stored. So that is why I need to do it like that as well, unlike the other ones, because a file goes into a folder and then it's stored there. So now we are done. All we need to do now is to run. You can run your test. So if you don't want to take individual screenshot, you can wait until the end of this one. And then you can just take a screenshot of all this one. You can see all is passed. So that's it in a nutshell. There's nothing much that you are expected to do. Once again, you can put this inside of one method. If you don't want to do it like this, it will completely be fine as well. So good luck, guys, with your submission. Can't wait to see what you guys will produce in terms of unit test. Cheers, bye.